This is Mark Mullinax, and you're listening to our podcast class on Taoism by considering each of the 81 verses of Tao Te Ching. Today, verse 52, Mother and Child Reunion.
When you listen to the ground and you put your roots down, you can hear what she says if you're listening. When you listen to the ground and you put your roots down, you can hear what she says if you're listening. The sweet sound of the river as she moves over the stones. The same song that the blood in your body sings as it weaves around your bones. When you're listening, are you listening?
We cannot live only for ourselves. 1,000 fibers connect us with our universe, and among those fibers, as sympathetic threads, our actions run as causes, and they come back to us as effects. Herman Melville. One day, Confucius said, "I would rather not speak." Tzu Kung asked, "If you do not speak, what do we have to record?" Confucius replied, "Does heaven speak? The seasons travel their course, and creatures all flourish. What does heaven say?" The Analects of Confucius, chapter 17, verse 19.
So greetings, class. Wonderful to be back in your community. Today's reader and question asker is Chandler Schroeder, a student of mine 20 years ago, and now good friend, who describes himself this way.
As one who seeks to know and always not know everything that goes on around me. To be a good father, to be a great therapist, and to always remain a good friend to those that matter.
That's pretty awesome. We are recording today, and you'll hear the sounds around us. We are recording today beside a 200-year-old oak tree near the banks of the French Broad River, the third oldest river in the world, maybe at least 260 million years old. Okay, folks, even though we may not sync in our respective places in various time zones together, I feel a kinship with you, a feeling that keeps me going on this podcast, a feeling that I like to explore more. And here's my idea. After we finish verse 81, a year or less from now, I'd like to continue this podcast with a new focus. I'd love to interview all of you, as many as possible, on the theme, My Favorite Verse of Tao Te Ching. It'd be a podcast where the two of us would gather, in person or virtually, and just talk through and discuss your favorite verse, your history with it, and where it's taken you. I'd ask you about which Tao Te Ching version you like best, and why. And what does your family think of your fascination with Tao? So chew on me with that. My email address will be in the show notes. Please use it if this interests you. Please write, and we will start the scheduling. Now, to verse 52. Oh, guys, we try, and we try, and we try, and then keep on trying to fix what we think is broken. Of course, we must fix some things that are broken, like medical illness or injuries, buildings after natural disasters. But what about our neurotic fixations on fixing what ain't actually broken? Can we ever bring a long view understanding or deep time approach to our understanding? What if we're trying to fix what never needs our solving? Maybe we can just pull the camera back, train the consciousness to see differently, and that what seems partial, dark, sad, empty, crazy, even whatever, what if we just stay with it? Like we can attend to and stay with a lifelong practice of music or art or athletics. And each time we practice it, it's somewhat the same, but also just a tiny bit different. So let's face it, we shall always remain, and maybe should remain, mystified by Tao Te Ching's elusive qualities, untamed by words or human concepts. Yet, we become more and more confident in or trustful of that practice to accompany us all our life long. Through our life situations, this matter of trust never hangs on how small or off balance or even sad that one feels on any particular day or one particular season in life. I mean, when I feel low, and I often do, am I really low? Have I really seen myself as I actually am, webbed in with the universe that is made of the same stuff as I am? So even without hope or fear, which happens all too often to me, I just breathe in the no matter how dark mystery, trust the no matter how deep unknown, and just keep on breathing till the dark and the deep opens and shows me already within Tao, already placed under the heaven's starry chamber, and I realize, my God, I contain infinity inside. Or as Walt Whitman put it, I contain multitudes. While I may feel addicted, my status is freedom. While I feel single and isolated, my status is connected and joined with all. I am made of darkness and light, shadow and shine. I'm a wondrous, bumbling bundle of unconscious connections. And this is where our Tao teaching is heading us today. So if possible, make peace with yourself vis-a-vis the heavens, no matter if you consider the heavens real or metaphorical, and just allow heaven and earth to re-enter their place of peace with and within you. Stay with it to notice that your innermost parts, your psychic center, your deepest aims and loves, even your darkest places are one and the same with heaven. And to behold and center in one, you behold and center in both. William Butler Yeats was perhaps only half right in his poem, The Second Coming. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold, he wrote. Yes, Mr. Yeats, they do. Just feel the high blood pressure when you consider the magnitude of this year's elections. And yet, so much is held together already. So much is going the way it should, despite challenges from human ego-informed climate changes, wars, vengeances, and, of course, our own doubts. The universe continues to unfold as it should. It is only the temporary that cannot hold. That's why I call this verse, in my translation, practicing eternity. For no matter what form Tao takes, with that form Tao unites. Naturally, Tao is the great in the sun, the mysterious in the perforated night sky, the unpredictable brilliance of lightning, the sound of a huge waterfall, and the rippling of that same water in the downstream flats of that river, and the thunder of the ocean. Tao is the smell of the flower, and the flower itself, the mew of the newborn, and the cries of its mother. Tao is the fullness and emptiness of space, the dark companionship of shadows, the integrity of water's many arrangements and single purpose, both sound and its echo, as well as the death of both. For this is our reality, both within and without. We are connected. So, Chandler, are you ready to read for us verse 52?
I think so. Verse 52, practice eternity. In the beginning was the source mothers all. Understand the mother and you recognize her children. Seeing yourself as her child, how your every endurance is in the mother, is the way of no danger. Abide in her, silence your inner referee, arrest your opinion maker, and peace is your life companion. But abandon her, meddle, monopolize, and your troubles multiply till the very last. Perceiving things as insignificant is enlightened. Yielding is strength. Practice being light, and enlightenment accompanies you with no trail of disaster. These are the practices of eternity.
Folks, Tao is not complicated. Tao is simplicity itself, one that embraces and holds complexity in its web of connecting the all with the each, the small with the huge, the light with its shadows. It comes down to simple questions. What is our origin, our destiny, and how do we live with strength and purpose in the meantime? Tao is not strong in some military sense. Tao is strong in how it yields and allows all natural strengths to grow. Like the mother Tao is, Tao creates whole universes by doing nothing obvious at all. We are included in these universes. The good news is this: Tao teaches that we are located, placed, connected, never lost, never misplaced or unconnected. Poor René Descartes got it all so totally wrong when he concluded that our existence is confirmed by our thinking. You've heard this old fool's gold of a quote, I think, therefore I am. I cannot critique his thought-stopping maxim here and now. What about the actual body, Mr. Descartes? And what I think on one day is not what I may think on another. No such thing in Taoism. Instead, in Taoism, one may know this: I am always located. Therefore, I am.
Are you listening? When you're listening, when you're listening, are you listening?
7 times the word for mother appears in Tao Te Ching. The very first and all-important verse 1 proclaims Tao as the mother of all things. Verse 6, while it does not use this same character, calls Tao the primal, mystic female, from whose womb all heaven and earth emerges. Verse 20 identifies Tao as a mother, from whom the misfitting character in that verse finds succor and peace. Verse 25 identifies Tao a second time as the mother of all things, mothering and nurturing all with virtue, even before there were these human creations we call gods. Verse 59 talks about adopting a mothering principle of ruling in order to endure. And today's verse 52 contains the character for mother 3 times. She is Tao, who birthed heaven and earth. All things are this mother's children. All Tao does is just have these mother and child reunions, like all the time. And here's where verse 52 implicates you and me. For as Tao creatures, we're enabled, empowered, and here reminded how perceiving and holding the insignificant is enlightened. Yielding, considered almost everywhere and in all times a feminine attribute, is actually strength.
Help others along their journey. Recognize in them the attraction they feel towards you. I Ching, the Book of Changes, China's most ancient spiritual text.
Put another way, just know that all things are brothers and sisters, just kin at some huge family reunion into which the mother has placed us. As mother's children, to live wisely in creation is ever to remember one's mothering source and our kinship relation to all her children. Therefore, we can imitate Tao by perceiving how even the insignificant is enlightened. Yielding, bowing to the small and the insignificant is our play and work too. We know all too well how the small and insignificant, those who come into our consciousnesses second, third, last, or not at all, they receive the lesser of our attentions, the remnants of our resources, if at all. This verse shows us, from Tao's perspective, how to reverse our unnatural inattention to all these things. She's like a wonderful teacher, this mom, this Tao. In her subtle way, she asks us to reverse our thinking, that we are loners, unconnected. She reminds us that nothing is alien to her. It's all Tao, all first class, no junk. Practice seeing and then including the small and the last is the very practice of Tao, inviting and holding the all and the every and the each with tenderness, softened views, generosity, yielding, and even playing the servant. This is our nature, folks.
The future is all of us. We need to add seats to the table. We're not taking away seats. We need to include everyone. This is for the betterment of everyone's world. Natalie Portman.
See, we don't get our nature from public broadcasting nature shows. Nature shows up in us, in everything and everywhere, every place. We are already located in nature. Therefore, we are already. And Malcolm X is right. We cannot wait. We are the ones we're all waiting for. Whatever it is that we need to unlearn in order to remember this original data about ourselves, let's start doing that. Because your liberation and my liberation are all tied up together. Mine with yours, yours with mine. There is no need to delay.
The most damaging phrase in the language is, "It's always been done that way." Grace Hopper, pioneering computer scientist.
It's hard to see yourself in everything, isn't it? Difficult to start regarding yourself, as Mother Tao does, kin to everything. We're not used to seeing things as connected. From the fly or mosquito trapped inside, to the folks nearby and far away in varying degrees of pain or unjust conditions. Right now, in the passenger seat of my car, a spider is weaving her life. Let her be. What do you mother? Whom can you mother? Something, someone just needing the break you can give him or her or them to bring your balancing and peace to them? You can do this. This is the power of the peaceful, for peace. Peace is not in short supply. Peace is not rationed out in some scarcity-based economy. It's always there within, without. Everyone somehow is already everyone else's liberator, savior, friend, companion. Everything is already constructed by Tao and Tao's virtue in, for, and by peace. There's nothing else to talk about because holiness is our original steady state. For us to know and practice this one way of seeing is radical, is revolutionary, and relevant to any situation or context.
For empathy is the most radical of human emotions. Gloria Steinem.
I'm a theologian, so I'm going to say this sentence. Theologically, this verse means that there is no junk in the universe. Tao has mothered every particle. Virtue accompanies and fulfills each one. So Christians, every meal is an act of sacramental, holy communion. Muslims, every journey is a reminder of your Hajj, your pilgrimage, and every fast is a reminder of Ramadan. Jews, every Sabbath or rest or pause is the same as God's resting on day 7 of creation. Hindus, everything and every person deserves a bow as an incarnation of the very sacred stuff of Brahman, the very ground of all reality. Every breath you take is air, spirit, pneuma. Every visitation is a reunion with your name for the divine. There's no neutral ground. Every atom is claimed and mothered by Mother Tao.
When you're listening, are you listening? When you're listening, are you listening?
Seeing the great is not vision. Seeing the small is vision. Protecting the strong is not strength. Protecting the weak is strength. Wang Pi.
So in today's verse 52, I turn aside from mainstream translations. I feel it important to link perceiving things as insignificant is enlightened, as complementary to seeing yourself as her child. Because most translations lean toward a view that enlightenment is merely being able to see the small and the insignificant. However, enlightenment is more firmly established in the practice of compassion, that is, seeing as a small person sees, hearing things from the underside, feeling with the humble. This verse, concerned with how the practice of enlightenment and constancy has its humble side, is strengthened by linking these two sentences. That is, as simply as I can put it today, the practice of Tao is how Tao mothers and how the Taoist leads.
We must be headlights, not taillights. John Lewis, congressman and civil rights leader.
This theme of compassion correlates well with other themes of Tao Te Ching, being a cultural misfit who, because of one's Tao curriculum, sees differently, then leads from that different, necessary, and correcting vision. This verse professes that eternity is not some belief or destination, but a practice, a trust in intentional peace. It reminds one just to abide in one's source, even as one silences contrary voices. These simple actions both begin and extend eternity awareness in this time and your place. I am in that place and time, therefore I am. So each particle frames, reflects, and refracts yet another way of being in and into the universe. The light each reflects is unique as a voice in one huge choir that just would not be the same without one voice, your voice. When we know that things and beings are the way, and children are the mother, we shall find the source of everything, in everything we meet, right then, right there. We are placed, therefore we are. So our homework? Practice compassion, not murder, of the next 5 insects you encounter. Notice how your consciousness for the next 5, or 500, or 5,000 insects change. And now, my dear listeners, here is Chandler's question.
So, if change is truly the only thing that is constant, and the thing that is constant is the source, which is the Tao, does that mean that the Tao is constantly changing?
First, Chandler, thank you. Second, feel free to interrupt my response at any time. I think you're asking in germ the question, if Tao is unchanging, and maybe in some of our minds divine, then how can we say yes or no to what seems undivine? That is change, which includes sometimes what is brutal, stupid, vulgar, thoughtless. So how do we surf the waters of change if that change emerges from a changeless water source? What's the relationship between unchanging Tao and the changes in life? In Taoist philosophy, Tao is the ultimate, yet entirely mysterious principle that underlies the universe. Described as a source, or as in this verse, the mother of everything, and the way or the path the universe follows, Tao births or originates all things, and is the original instructions or blueprints for the natural processes that govern all existence. But all existence, alive and in relationship to each other, changes. The way is the unchanging womb of things. Things, being the children of the way, well, we change. So let's delve into the nuances of Tao's nature and what is constant and what changes. First, Tao's nature, and this is kind of a refresher course. Tao is often described as something that cannot be fully grasped or defined. Tao Te Ching begins with these lines: any track one can walk is no path for the eternal way. Any name one might borrow for Tao cannot summon it. Names are just sounds for ordinary things. This suggests to me 2 things. First, that any attempt to describe the Tao in definitive terms falls short of its true nature. Second, Tao is the source of all things. These ordinary things, once visible and webbed in relation one to the other, do change, but not Tao. Any thoughts so far, Chandler?
Of course, you know me. Always the thought on something. Yeah, so the reason that I posed the question is because I have been taught, and I tried to teach or impart the idea that we as the human being can change and must change in order to survive. In my practice, that's the one thing that I deal with my clients on, is I say, do you want to change? And that answer has to be yes, or they don't need therapy. And so with the Tao, what fascinates me about it and draws me to it is it feels like it is an ever-changing constant.
Yeah, okay. Chandler, we are looking out on this ancient French Broad River.
Mm-hmm.
It's been there millions of years. It is the river. And at every second, it's changing.
Right.
Does that bring anything kind of...
Absolutely, yeah. It's, like water. And I'm fascinated with water. My office, I have 4 different water features in it because it just, the power of it and yet the simplicity of it, much like the Tao.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea that, look at the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
What started as a stream dug this massive, expanse of land.
Mm-hmm.
And for the Tao, the more that I read and the more that I meditate on, it seems that the Tao is what gives us the ability to change because of its unchanging nature.
I like where you're going with that. Because when we are practicing Tao, we are practicing our relationship with eternity.
Mm-hmm.
And anything that's temporary, addictions, crazy thoughts,
Mental health.
yeah. These are temporary. And to practice the temporary is futile.
Correct. I agree 1,000% with that.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, that's why, we set, that's why as humans we set goals.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to do this in a month. I want to do this in 5 years.
Yeah.
And I have to change things to get there. Which is why what you said earlier about Tao's nature.
Mm-hmm.
Any track one can walk is no path for the eternal way.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's saying there are infinite number of tracks to walk.
Okay. All right.
That's how I read it.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. But the change comes when you are in relationship with every other thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything is in relationship, they're circling around Tao, to put it badly. They're in this universe of Tao, all in orbit around Tao.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all in relationship to something that does not change. But our relationships change.
Right.
You used to be my student.
Right.
I used to be a professor. And now neither is true, but we're still going.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
We're still doing the thing.
Okay. So
Yeah.
let me do a little repeating here and see if it helps at all. So what's constant and what changes? According to Taoism, change is a fundamental aspect of the universe because everything is in a state of flux and nothing remains static. Witness the French Broad River. This constant change happens when Tao is manifested, when it's visible, because there's something underlying the French Broad River that makes it manifested.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So when you say what makes it visible,
Yeah.
to me, I read that and think of that as the Tao is always visible.
Its effects are visible, but
Correct.
but I am hesitant to name the mystery of Tao and say I got it.
I get it. Yeah.
I got Tao on a leash. My
Right.
leash, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have tamed Tao.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah. No. Pavlov was not right in that.
That's
instance.
BS. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Tao manifests things, and manifestations all change because we are ever in relationship with other manifestations. And the natural world will operate like through seasons, like the natural world operates through cycles, like seasons, and transformations, like our birth, death, and life. And this dynamic process is seen as an expression of Tao. But these changes and seasons often bring unwelcome changes like death, disease, wars. So I'm fascinated by your question, how do we surf these waves? Tao can encompass all change, but Tao herself, is considered to be beyond change. Simply put, Tao itself is not subject to the fluctuations and transformations that it generates. It is the underlying principle that remains constant, even as it manifests through endless variations and things and changes in the universe. It's like one theme that gets endlessly reworked over years of music. Okay? So the way to live Tao in a midst of change is with curiosity, flexibility, and acceptance. A sentence that will take me years to explain. But when I get cancer or a stroke, both of which I've had, I then play my remaining cards. Again, I'd like to write that book, but we haven't that time today. Maybe all I can do is ask you, Chandler, to recite the Serenity Prayer.
Absolutely. So it is God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know that difference.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, we're talking about a mystery. We're just tickling the surface here.
Right.
In conclusion, an obvious paradox is here that these two teachings exist together. Tao is a source of all change, but is itself unchanged. Taoist thought embraces both changing and unchanging. Tao is both the source of the constant flow of change and the immutable principle underlying all change. So Tao embodies both stillness and motion, yin and yang, permanence and transformation. When the manifest world is characterized by constant change, Tao itself is beyond these transformations. It's the eternal source from which all changes emanate. So to bumper sticker this, Tao never changes, but Tao is the unchanging principle that enables change in the universe. And the Taoists trust that this change is part of the plan. I'll close with two images. I ride a bicycle. The bicycle does not change, if you can humor me for a moment, but it takes me into changed scenery, weather, terrain, and it changes me. I get stronger, I have accidents, and the bike brings me to new situations. But while the conditions change, the bike is ever the same. The same image works here by this ancient French Broad River in front of us. It's always the same river, but it's never twice the same. Final thoughts, Chandler? Have I gotten anywhere close to it?
No, it's funny thinking that, and I think a lot of the listeners, I know you understand the idea of the subconscious scotoma.
Quick footnote inserted here. The scotoma that Chandler is referring to is a psychological phrase for a blind spot within our psyches.
The thing that your subconscious has a constant awareness, but you don't always think of it until you need to.
Mm.
And so, for instance, we're sitting here at the French Broad, two old friends, watching things change. I'm watching people come and go, but yet there's still people. People were sitting at that table over to our right, and now they're gone, but there will be more people there. That's how I'm starting to understand this manifestation of Tao, that all of these changes that we embody and that we experience are, at the end of the day, they are the Tao.
Yeah.
When you dig down to it.
Yeah.
And so I think, oddly enough, we've answered my question, at least for me.
Okay. Well, it's a question I think needed asking. And again, it has that part. What do we do when these changes might ask us to do a lot, and we may want to say no to the changes?
Mm-hmm.
How do we say yes to Tao in every situation? That is the question of a lifetime. So that's a wrap. Thanks, Chandler, for being here.
It's been a pleasure.
Please be reminded that you too can join the podcast as a reader and question asker. And if you'd like to be a part of my favorite verse of Tao Te Ching line up later on, please contact me at the email in the show notes. As always, this podcast is an original work designed, written, and produced by me. Podcast work by Audrey Davis. Chandler Schroeder gave voice to quotes and his wonderful question. The Put Your Roots Down song is graciously provided by Molly Hartwell. The copyright for quotations from Tao Te Ching is held by Fortress Press. May your days begin in peace and become laboratories for radical hope.